Welcome back to Innovators with Jane King. I'm David Grasso with Gen Biz. Today we're going to debate the likelihood of a recession coming to America next year. With uncertainty surrounding the slow global economy and the ensuing trade war with China, how will this possible recession affect the tech industry? Joining me here to discuss this issue is Anafi Wahed, founder and CEO of the Flipside.io, and John Hirschauer of the National Review, and Mark Anthony Grimaldi, the President and Chief Compliance Officer at Navigator Money Management, Inc. Welcome, folks. Great to have you here today.
Great to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so Mark, recession or no recession?
No recession.
Why is that?
Earnings are too high, GDP is too high, consumer spending is too high, and most important, our wages are too high. Wages are growing at such a robust clip that I don't see a recession coming in 2020.
How about you, Anafi? Do you agree?
I do not. I think there is a recession. So consumer spending is high, but we're seeing some red flags. We're seeing personal loans are up more than 10% over a year ago, along with credit card debt rising. We are seeing geopolitical tensions, whether it's trade war with China or Brexit or economic slowdown in Germany. And finally, you have business spending by both large and small companies that have essentially flatlined this year. So all warning signs that we're going to see a recession in 2020.
How about you, John? Where do you lie in this argument?
I agree with Mark. I don't think that a recession is coming. I mean, I think a lot of the fundamentals are there as far as spending growth with consumers is there. It's strong. There's strong partisan views on both sides of it. I think 81% of Democrats foresee a recession coming in the next calendar year. Only 45% are Republicans. So there's a big partisan gap there, and that can change as the election comes. So, channeling the animal spirits is always a big thing here. So who knows? But my gut tells me no, the fundamentals are too strong.
So this has been the longest stretch of uninterrupted growth in American history at this point. Do recessions die of old age? Does this eventually run out of gas? I mean, it's one of those things that as humans we think, oh, well, it's like a car. You speed up, you slow down, you stop. Is the economy not like that, Mark?
Well, actually, Alan Greenspan, one of the most famous Fed chiefs ever, said that we don't just fall into recession, we slide into recession. And we are seeing a little bit of slide in the GDP. It is contracting a little. But to talk about the trade war for a second, what's happening right now is we're trying to trade more with China. We're not trying to trade less with China. And that's why earnings are going up, and that's why consumer income is going up. If we have wages growing at this level, and we have unemployment as low as it is right now, last year at this time, everyone was predicting a recession in 2019.
They were.
I'll be the first
That's
to tell
true.
you that on January 3rd of this year, I went out and recorded a spot that said we have a 10% chance of recession in 2019 because of the same reasons.
It turned out to be zero.
It turned out to be zero. We're not going to have a recession. We are not going to slip into recession in 2020. It is going to be a crazy year. There's no question about that. We probably end the year maybe in a different world than we started the year. But in terms of a recession, before November, no recession.
Yeah, Anafi, let's talk about that, the politics of a recession, right? President Trump's re-election campaign is really pinning itself to the good economy. What happens if this economy gets derailed, like you're saying?
That's right. I think a lot of his chances hinge on the economy. I think forget impeachment, forget all the other drama, it's always the economy.
It's the economy, stupid,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And I will say that Bridgewater Associates, the world's largest hedge fund, is betting more than $1 billion that stock markets will decline by March, which actually might be good for Trump. If we have a recession early on in 2020 and it's mild and we're able to recover by November 2020, I could see him getting reelected. So it's a toss-up. And I think it will depend on the timing and severity whether or not the economy hurts or helps Trump.
Yeah, what do you think about that, John? The politics of a recession.
Yeah, I mean, the politics are such right now in the country of high levels of wealth and income inequality, which is driving a lot of populist movements around the country on the right and the left.
Of course.
Sort of what got us Donald Trump in the first place, and then on the ascendancy of Bernie Sanders on the left and Elizabeth Warren. Much of the left really has taken on Bernie and Elizabeth Warren's sort of policy agenda, so I think it's a reflection of some of the populist undercurrents that are.
So what do we do about that?
Well, I mean, that's a big question. I think that Donald Trump has the right impulse in taking on the trade war with China because I think a lot of, losing the big manufacturing base in the middle of this country is a problem that, again, caused his rise in ascendancy. So him at least taking proactive steps in that direction is something that I think will help to fend off some of those populist concerns. But I don't think that's enough to by itself eliminate the problem.
So one of the bright spots in the economy, wait a second, Mark.
Bright spots, yeah, okay, great.
One of the bright spots in the economy has been tech. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the startup life, it's really revolutionized the way we live. How is tech going to be affected by the next recession?
The tech market right now is not in debt, like you were saying. Yeah, consumers are heavy in debt, and I agree with that. But these tech companies are so lean and so tight because of what happened the fourth quarter of last year. Markets were down 20% in a year, in the fourth quarter of last year. They basically tightened up their balance sheets, they tightened up their books. They're not in as much debt as they were before. That doesn't mean the market can't go down. Like they say, if the market goes down in March, I'm not sure what that's going to mean in terms of November, because the market can come back. But there's a lot of good signs, but I think tech is going to be able to survive it, and it's been one of the leaders this year because their balance sheets, they got the lesson.
I think the term tech sector is actually outdated, right? We have Facebook and Google that's focused on ad revenues. So if there's a recession, they're obviously going to take a hit. But you have tech companies that are making medical devices, right? So is that tech? Is that the healthcare sector?
I think if there is a recession, because they're so startup driven and they're so, driven by outside finance, that it's going to really ossify and condense the market power in the top few companies.
Well, guys, you've been an excellent panel. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks so much, David.
Thank you, David.
And thank you for joining me today for our Innovators panel. We'll be back with a new panel of guests in the near future.